Like the only time I've really made dumb gambling decisions is when I have a ton of cash around. So I try to make sure I don't have any money. But I mean, the goal is to pull like 8 figures.
So as most of you know, I watch an unhealthy amount of YouTube, and even though I've seen a lot of people come and go, every now and then I notice somebody who really stands out. And lately, no one quite does it, like the newest addition to YouTube, Ludwig.
I think the final number was $1.3 million in the month.
Even though many people might know him as the most subscribed to streamer of all time, at his core, he is a savvy entrepreneur who was able to leverage his brand into a multi-million-dollar business while also being completely transparent about his financial struggles, gambling addictions, and setbacks along the way. So I reached out on Instagram to see if he'd be open to talking about money, personal finance, investing, and how he was able to build his entire business. And the next day, he said yes. This is what happened. Enjoy.
Why did you start streaming?
I did comedy in college for like a couple years at Arizona State. And then I moved to LA because I had a job interview at a magazine. Got the job. And then I thought I would do comedy, but it turned out it's really hard to pay bills and be a normal functioning human and eat well and exercise and keep up social relationships, much less travel an hour through LA traffic to go do a stand-up gig for 15 minutes. But I had a friend who's doing a podcast, like we're doing now, but on Twitch. And it did like pretty well, had like a couple hundred viewers. So I started doing that and then it picked up a little bit.
When was the exact moment that you realized you could turn this into a business?
I didn't really choose when I thought I could do it full time. To me, the number was always $10,000 in my bank account. If I had 10K in my bank account, I could do it full time because I was making just about enough to pay rent, food, utilities, and all that good stuff. And then I got fired at like 7K in the bank. So I was like, I could get a job, save up to 10K, or I could just run it with 7K, which is what I did instead.
How many hours back then were you working?
I worked at a vape company. I would sell vapes, and I was a head of marketing for that company. And I had a genius idea, at least I thought, where I had FaZe Banks locked to be the main sponsor, and we're gonna reduce the amount of nicotine that he vaped every month for a year until he quits vaping. I went to the CEO of the company, who's like this Chinese guy who owned it all, pitched it to him. He's like, love the idea, but we think our products are too bad to promote it to that many people because there's too many defects and like 1 in every 10 product would fail. And I was like, crazy. So then I just lame ducked it. And I just sat in my office for the next 2 months and I looked at streams and studied streams and would figure out what I would do on stream. Then I'd get home at 6 p.m. and I would stream from like 7 to 11. And then I would go to bed, wake up, go to work, do the same thing. So I was probably spending like 9 hours thinking about streaming a day and then 4 hours actually streaming.
You can't look like this and then ask a girl to go onto a mountain with you by yourself.
How will this affect LeBron's legacy?
You know, hey, he can never be the GOAT, but goddamn is he good.
Could you walk us through like an average day?
Every day I wake up at 9:40 and I take my Vespa and I go to the gym because I work out Monday through Friday, 30 minutes a day, which I think is amazing because it's just short enough that when I look at the clock, I'm done. And then from like usually 11 to noon, I'll have a call or something. And then noon to 2 is like R&D. So I look at every single streamer who I think is doing something right. I try to see what they're doing, see if there's anything I can pull from it. If I feel zero inspiration, I'll look at YouTubers that I like. If I feel zero inspiration, then I'll just look at things that I've done. And I try to think of what I will stream that day in that time block. And then I'll set up the stream for usually like 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. And then I'll stream for about 4 hours and then, you know, watch TV. Play League of Legends, hang out with my girlfriend, go to bed.
How did you start hiring on people, and at what point did you start expanding the team?
My roommate, Slime, is the person who did the podcast that originally inspired me to start streaming. And he came into my room one day, shirtless in his underwear, during COVID. And it was when they had just talked about maybe going back to the office, but he had really liked working from home. And he came to me and he had a PowerPoint presentation. And this is why you should hire me for Ludwig Onder Corporation. And he went through slide by slide. And it basically summed up to, I need him because I wasn't paying my taxes. He would like to work for me because he doesn't want to go back into an office. And so I hired him like that week.
Are you prepared?
I'm ready. I'm
Now, you mentioned not paying your taxes. What happened there?
The first year I'd started streaming part-time, and it was the first year I'd ever owed the IRS money. It was one of those projects that if I sat down for like 2-3 days, I could get it done, but I just didn't want to do that. Because it's so easy when you're streaming. When you go live, you see that you are making money and you see that you're growing, that not doing that feels bad. So I just didn't do it. But Slime ended up doing it. And that was like one of the main things that he did when he came on. And so now the books are clear. The books are good.
Do you have a budget in terms of like, here's how much I could spend, here's how much goes to taxes?
I got no clue, to be honest. I could be getting Michael Jacksoned and not know it. I get paid a certain amount, like I have a salary, and I pretty rarely go above that. Unless I have like a big thing I want to buy, I just stay within that amount because I don't spend too much, I think, month to month.
We have $50,000 worth of stuff that I bought in an Amazon and an eBay stream.
But the overall company will generally pull, and it's gone up, so it's like hard to say. But I mean, the goal is to pull like 8 figures, like super low 8 figures each year. So YouTube's the big bulk now because they sign me exclusively. So they write big fat paycheck. I would say that YouTube ad revenue adds up to about 40% of everything. Sponsorships is like another 30%. Merch in general, items that we sell, adds up to like another 30%. The final company that I'm making now is called Off Brand, and that I'm making with my friends, Atriox Stans and Nick Allen, who are all business people, to make content for other creators and basically become a producer for other people. And our first project is we made a game show for XQC that'll be airing soon.
So what's your team right now? How many people is it?
Yeah, so Mogul Moves is about like 12 employees, and then Mogul Merch is about like 3 full-time employees. And then the Yard Podcast, we're all co-owners, but it has still 2 full-time employees. And then the final one is Off Brand, which we're all co-owners, and we have no full-time employees outside of the 4 owners.
So how do you decide to divvy your time between doing YouTube, which arguably is extremely profitable, versus diversifying that elsewhere?
That's the Mr. Beast route. I met Jim, and he's always like, you gotta be the biggest you can be. I prefer to make things that I think are cool. And that doesn't always necessarily align with being as big as you can possibly be. But most of the time, I'm doing like the daily drivers, like the YouTube videos I know that will be successful and make sure the channel's still alive, with the goal of doing a bigger project every few months or so. Whether it's this project I'm working on with XQC, or I'm working on like a chess boxing event this December. You asked me before, like what motivates me to keep making content. And it used to be I had a daily upload streak. I uploaded every day on YouTube for 2 years straight. And I never wanted to break the streak. So I would be awake at 11:59 p.m. just trying to get a video out so I could keep that alive. And eventually I broke it off because the content I was making was worse just so that I could upload videos. And I lost motivation for a while after that because I'm like, okay, why am I making content now? And now my main motivator is I have 15 employees, and if the company goes shit, then they all lose their jobs. So
Sure.
it's good to have overhead for that.
That's right. Everyone, give me more money.
The worst
doesn't matter.
purchase I made was a gambling purchase where I paid a professional gambler. I gave him $50,000. He had like this amazing bet that ended up winning, but he didn't put all the money on the bet. He ended up trying to pay a bunch of bookies back, and he was an addict. And I confronted him, and I made him admit that he was scamming me on the phone.
Yes, Ludwig, I scammed you.
Why is that word so hard to say?
I made a whole video about it, but I ended up not trying to pursue any criminal charges against him because he's just like a dumbass kid who's addicted to gambling, who thought I was his ticket out. But I have a private investigator following him in case he ever does something again.
How do you deal with your own gambling addiction?
Oh, I knew early on. I was like 15. I went to Spain, and with my grandfather, we played Rapido, and I was just chucking any of the euros that my family had given me. And he was like, slow down. And I was like, it was fun though. And then in college, I got really into online poker. And I ended up running an online poker group for a little bit. But I lost at the start about $5,000, which was everything I had saved up working at Apple. And the best way I could manage it at the start was just not having money to gamble. And then now the way I manage it is just not having again, any cash around. Like the only time I've really made dumb gambling decisions is when I have a ton of cash around. So I try to make sure I don't have any money.
Just do me a favor. Go ahead and subscribe right now. Let's go ahead and build
This
up
might
some
be
of
the
money.
first ever time where people are going to feel so bad for you, they're going to give you money.
Like I think I really enjoy working and I work a lot, but I also know that the things that make me happy are riding my Vespa, going on a hike and watching the sunset and hanging out with my girlfriend. So I try to do as much of that every day as I can. And so even if I'm working 9-10 hours, I'm still finding, you know, the 4 hours of the day that I can do those things.
How often do you feel burnt out?
Once was when I was working at my job full time and then streaming after. And I would remember going into my driveway and it was weird. I would feel incredibly burnt out after a very successful stream because I felt like I could never live up to what that stream was on the next one. And that would feel demoralizing to go from 1,000 viewers back to 400. So I would just sit in my driveway and I wouldn't want to go inside because I knew I'd have to go live. One time it was really bad. I went live just to say I couldn't go live. And I just sat in my closet for like 2 hours lying on the floor. And then I had an epiphany that was like, it doesn't fucking matter. The streams that you do don't fucking matter. Well, the only thing that matters is the next one. So I just have to like put my head down and focus on the next one rather than like rejoicing in a really good one, which will make me feel bad if the next one's not as successful. And then I felt a bit burnt out recently, probably in the past month or so. And I think that was just from traveling.
Sure.
Traveling's just owned me. Since I switched to YouTube, if I really feel like I just can't go live, and I know that I have a good enough library of streams that I've done that can be YouTube videos, I just won't go live. And I think that's fine because there's things that I can do that aren't streaming now that are helping the YouTube channel or helping other businesses that make me feel productive, make me feel fulfilled, and I don't need to grind another 6 hours. I'm very accepting that this can all and will all go to shit one day, and I'm just waiting for that day to come. But when that day comes, I think I'll be happy and I'll be fine.
What is your biggest insecurity?
Every single video and every single stream I make, even if I'm like incredibly proud of it, is something that will die very quickly in comparison to most forms of media. And so I would like to make a form of media, whether it's a book or a TV series or a movie one day, that will last longer and I can be more proud of and be more justified in that pride. I think the like button is a fake metric, but what isn't a fake metric is not just hitting the subscription button, but the bell. That is a very important metric.
Yes.
And that bell will determine how well the video performs in the first hour, which will help the video perform for the next few days. So do that. And if you want to do the like thing to make this guy happy, then do it too.